Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. I am guest designing for the Love from Lizi August card kit. Today I'm sharing my 10 cards using the lovely Super Shine kit that is just full of gold and silver foil accents. For my first card, I'm using 2 different designer papers along with sketch number 183 from My Favorite Things. To help balance out all the gold shine, I'm including some black cardstock to add matted layers. Then I punched out a circle die cut with a gold star design. This piece could be used as a small journaling card since the center part is lined. For the banner element of the sketch, I'm using a piece of black cardstock. Then I'll adhere the card front to the card base. The kit includes 2 sheets of heavyweight black cardstock, which is perfect for card bases. Later on, I'll add a white liner to the inside of the card. I cut out a small white circle to add a stamped sentiment. I tested the stamp on a piece of scratch paper first, and then decided to use my mini MISTI to ensure a solid stamped impression. I find it very useful to use the negative piece of paper and some washi tape when stamping on a small circle die cut. Now I can re-ink the stamp and re-stamp it until I'm happy with the results. I cut out a black circle to add a thin border around the sentiment. I'm including one of the punch-out banners as a last finishing touch to my card and stamping a small star on it to go with the sentiment. I still tested the stamp first, then decided I could stamp the image just fine without using the MISTI. Since the die cuts are all punch-outs, there are small tabs on the edges of each piece. I just used my scissors to snip off those tiny tabs. For card number 2, I'm using Mojo Monday sketch number 453. If anyone is interested, I always share the card sketches with measurements on my coordinating blog post. I decided to make a shaker card. I used the star paper for the background and a piece of the gold polka dot vellum paper for behind the shaker. The gold stripe punch-out is part of the Super Shine bumper pack from Love from Lizi. I'm using black cardstock for layering on all of my cards since it adds some nice contrast against the gold, silver, and white. I use several sheets from the paper in my craft room. I've always been a big fan of including layers on my cards. I use some of the black peel-off stickers for part of the diagonal stripes of the sketch. I just love the exclusive peel-off stickers. This sheet has a really pretty sparkle to it. Before I start building the shaker component, I adhere the card front to the black card base. Then it's time to add the foam dimensional tape around the edges of the center square piece. I'll add 2 layers of foam tape so that it's thick enough for the sequins to move around and not get stuck. For the square frame, I cut a black square, then used a square die to cut out the window. As I cut the foam tape, I make sure the pieces aren't wider than the frame. With the first layer tape done, I am ready to start on the second layer. If I have any small gaps, I'll just cut a tiny piece of tape to fill in the holes. We don't want any sequins falling out. Once all of the foam tape is in place, it's time to add the sequins. While I was making this card, my workspace was surrounded with Love from Lizi craft supplies, along with a few other things I had recently used on a previous project. So I overlooked the sequin pack included in the kit and used some other sequins to fill my shaker card. Now I can add the piece of acetate and the black square frame. I always have a few sequins escape when I add the piece of acetate, so I just tuck them back inside. I have lights directly over my workspace, so I apologize for all the reflections off the shiny papers in this kit. For a sentiment, I'm using one of the tag punch-outs. I decided to cut a fishtail on the end of it. To keep it at the same layer as the shaker component, I'm adding 2 layers of foam tape to the back of the punch-out. The finishing touch is to add just a few drops of the Ebony Black Nuvo drops. Now on to card number 3. I'm using sketch number 161 from Operation Ride Home and another piece of design paper with the gold foil cracks all over it. I'm adding a piece of the gold foil stripes across the front of the card, layering it in black cardstock. Next, I'm using one of the gold tag punch-outs with the sentiment "Hello" on it. I love the bow punch-outs that are included in the kit and decided to use the white one with gold stars. The bow is 2 pieces that need to be assembled. There are tiny cutout circles to pop out. I used a paper piercer to do that. Then you fold the outer piece around the back, lining up the tiny circles. Using a brad, I attach the pieces together to form the bow. I'm adding a bit of foam tape to the back of the tag, and then just a bit of liquid adhesive to attach the bow to the top of the tag. The finishing touch for this card is a couple of black brads in the upper corner. The tool I'm using is called the brad setter and paper piercer, and it's made by We Are Memory Keepers. It's so handy if you use a lot of brads. All that's left to do is adhere the card front to the card base, and this card's done. For card number 4, I used sketch number 235 from Mojo Monday. I'm actually altering this sketch quite a bit from my card, starting with rotating it. I'm using white cardstock for the background and the silver polka dot paper. I love the large hexagon sentiment stamp and decided to use it in place of the circle element on the sketch. I want to heat emboss it using the silver embossing powder included in the kit. I pulled out my Mini Misty again so I can make sure to get a solid stamped impression. The embossing powder is super fine, which makes a very clean, detailed image. I'm trimming out the image, leaving a thin white border. Then I'm layering it onto some black cardstock. I decided to use another bow tie punch-out. This time I chose the white bow with the silver foil cracks all over it. I'll assemble the bow just as I did the previous one. Punch out those tiny circles, fold the pieces back, and then use a brad to hold all of it together. Then I'm just using a couple of glue dots to hold the bow together. Now I'll add some foam dimensional tape to the back of the image. And before I adhere it to the card, I'm going to use a few more of the exclusive peel-off stickers, just adding a couple little strips on the bottom of the card. The peel-off stickers are so fun. I definitely need to get some more colors. Now I'll go ahead and attach that sentiment and then put a little bit of glue adhesive on the back of the bow. I'll adhere that card front to a white card base using my ATG tape. And then just the last finishing touch, I'm going to use some more of the Ebony Black Nuvo drops. I'll just do 3 on the top on each side. For card number 5, I'm using sketch number 324 from My Favorite Things. And for this card, I decided I needed just a little bit of color, so I dug through my paper scraps and pulled out some pink pieces. I used a little scalloped border die to cut the little edge on the silver polka dot paper. And then I die cut some circles along with the little present stamp that's included in the kit. I cut the little present as pink, and then I decided I wanted all those little tiny stars in the silver. So I cut those as well, and then I'm just doing a little inlaid die technique, kind of putting them all together like a puzzle. Some of those stars are really tiny, but I really like the overall finished look. Now I'm just going to adhere the present onto the circle die cuts, and since I use score tape on the back of the present, I just need to take off the backing and then a little bit of liquid glue onto the bow. The die set comes with this little tiny tag, but I decided not to use that for my card this time. So add a little bit of foam dimension and place that on my card. And then I decided to use the ribbon that has the sentiment happy birthday on it. I'm using that strip of ribbon as the little banner piece that goes on the sketch. And then with a little piece of score tape on the back, I'm going to adhere the ribbon onto some black cardstock just so it adds a little bit of contrast. I'll trim that piece out, and then I'm going to add some foam dimension to the back of it. That way it's on the same dimension as that circle with the little present. Someone asked me recently if adding small banners on the top corner of my cards is a signature style of mine. I guess it may be because I do tend to use them quite a bit. After adhering the card front to the card base, I'm going to add just a few Nuvo crystal drops to the bottom of the card. For card number 6, I'm using sketch 247 from My Favorite Things. I'll start by adhering a piece of the designer vellum to a card front, and then I cut a die cut with this frame. I'm going to go ahead and attach that to the front. Next I'll adhere the white sentiment piece onto the black layer and then put that on my card. For the banner in the upper corner, I'm using one of the die cut punch outs. I chose the gold with the white polka dots, and it has a little top part that you can fold down, but I decided to just cut that part out. And then I'm going to use that little present die again, and I wanted the gift this time in gold, so I used another one of the die cut banner pieces. That way I could have a gold gift. This time I let the stars just be white, so I just put a piece of white cardstock behind the gift. I cut the bow using some of the silver foil on one of the designer pieces. So I'm just going to glue those together and adhere those to the card. And for the sentiment, I'm using the alphabet sheet that comes in the kit. I'm going to spell out the word celebrate. I'm alternating silver and gold. And when I first started laying these out, I didn't place them very well space-wise, so I've had to pull them up and fuss with them a little bit so that I could get the whole word to fit. Luckily, the stickers pulled up nicely and nothing ripped. After moving them around a couple of times, I did manage to get the sentiment to fit on there. Now I'm going to use some of the little gold stars that came out of the present, and I'm just going to add those with some liquid adhesive as a little bit of embellishment around the sentiment. These stars are really tiny, so they're hard to pick up, but they'd be perfect to cut out and use inside a shaker card or maybe as just a little bit of confetti. Next up is card number 7. I'm using a sketch from Operation Ride Home, number 56. And for the background, I'm using one of my favorite pieces in this pack. It's really shiny. I'm also using one of the border punch outs that's included in the Super Shine bumper pack. I'm just trimming off all those little paper tabs before adding it to some black cardstock. And I decided I'm going to make another shaker card, but this time I won't forget to use the Love from Lizi's exclusive sequin mix. So I'm going to build the card the same way that I did my first one, using some foam adhesive, and I'll make sure to do 2 layers. I used some of the gold foil star paper for the background, although you won't see very much of it because I do fill this card quite a bit with the sequins. I did end up with a few little gaps in the adhesive, so I did have to go and cut just some really tiny pieces to kind of wedge in between, just to make sure that nothing got out. Now I can go ahead and add the sequin mix, and I'm using the Love from Lizi exclusive Super Shine mix. And then I decided I wanted to put the little embossing buddy powder on the inside just so the sequins don't stick to the edges of the foam tape. So I'm adding a whole bunch of sequins in there. And then I'll add my little acetate window, and I always have a few that stray out. And then next I'm going to add that black frame. I did realize that I didn't cut the foam tape narrow enough because it is showing through that black frame. So I went ahead and removed it, and then I cut another one with a little wider border. Sorry again about the super reflection from my overhead lights. So now I'm going to adhere that card front to the card base. Next, I'm going to use one of the little sentiment tags. This one also comes in that Super Shine bumper pack. And it says, "You're the best." So I'm just going to adhere it with a little bit of the foam dimension, just so it's on the same level as that shaker component. Another embellishment I love to add to my card is just a couple of these little larger stitch circles. And then I'm going to use some more of the peel-off stickers and kind of just do a little frame right outside the window of the shaker card. This might have been a little easier to do before I assembled all of the card, but I thought about it at the last minute. I like that extra little sparkle it has though. For card number 8, I didn't use any card sketches, but I did use the stencil that comes in the monthly kit. And this is a fun stencil. It has all these circles and different patterns, and it's self-adhesive, so it will stay in place. It's not going to move around, so that's really nice. I'm using the Nuvo Mousse, and this is the Indian gold color, and then I'm just putting that onto the paper using one of the foam distressing tools. Once that's all in place, I can just peel up that stencil. Then I'm using this star frame stamp that comes in the kit. I'm going to ink it up with some Versamark ink, and then I'm going to emboss it again with that really pretty gold embossing powder. Once I'm done heat embossing that, I was going to just fussy cut the image out, and then I decided to use a circle die instead. And then I cut out a larger black circle so I could layer it. And then I want to stamp a sentiment in the middle. I'm using the Made with Love sentiment. And I want to make sure to get a nice clean impression, so I used my mini Misty again. And then just so I don't want that circle sort of floating there, I'm going to use this little black strip across the front just to kind of anchor it in place. And then I'm using a few of the really skinny ribbons that are included. I have the white along with this light gray. So I just put a little adhesive on the back and I'm just kind of wrapping it toward the front and the back. And then I'll do the same with the other piece. And then the kit also includes this little packet of metal charms, and so I thread just a skinny piece of twine through one of the gold circles. And then after I add my sentiment, I'm just going to tie a little bow, and then I'm going to add that little metal charm right in the center of the bow. I couldn't decide how I wanted the bow at first, so I did kind of fuss with it. And then I ended up cutting off just that extra twine pieces and then just had the bow with the ribbon. And then I'll just snip off the extras on the end. And then I'll just adhere that card front onto one of the black card bases. Now I'm on to card number 9. I wanted to figure out a way to use the little tile mirrors that are included in the kit, so I pulled out this sketch from Operation Ride Home, number 60, and it has those 9 little 1-inch squares, so I thought that'd be perfect to add those little mirror tiles. And I didn't want to place them on the card to look like a honeycomb, just like they're already on the package, so I decided to turn them the other direction, and then I'm trying to just line them up to try to get them as even as I can. These tiles have a really sticky adhesive on the back, which is nice because it's going to stay in place, but when you have to move them, it's a little trickier to pull them off. Plus they're really thick. I mean, it's a real mirror. This isn't like a little plastic piece. So once in a while you may see a reflection of myself or a little bit of my craft room in those mirrors. After I get all 9 of those little mirror tiles in place, I'm going to use one of the sentiment punch out dies. This one says hello. And then I'm just going to put it right in the center of those tiles. And then just one last little finishing touch are a few Nouveau drops on the side. For card number 10, I'm using sketch 157 from Operation Ride Home. For the 3 strips in the background, I'm using some of the vellum with that silver foil cracks through it. And then instead of using cardstock to add the little border around them, I'm using some more of the peel-offs. You can never have too much shine and sparkle on your card after all. After I get all of those in place and trim off any of the little extras off the side, I'm going to adhere that card front to the card base. For the main focal point of this card, I'm going to use one of these little pockets that are included in the Super Shine bumper pack. So I'm going to assemble it and kind of attach it backwards because I want that little opening of the pocket on the front. So once I have the pocket all assembled, I'm just going to go ahead and adhere that down to my card. Then I'm going to add this little ticket punch out to the front and then put the sentiment hello using some of the little alphabet stickers. And I did a better job with the spacing the first time. I decided I wanted to pop that up a little, so I'm adding some dimensional tape to the back. And then I'm going to use one of these journaling cards that comes with the die cut pack, along with the sentiment that says "You're a star." So I'm just going to add a black border to the little banner there, hook that onto the journaling card, and then I'm just going to punch a hole on the top of that and add a piece of ribbon. That way the recipient can easily pull that little sentiment journaling card out of the little pocket. After adding that black skinny ribbon, I decided it wasn't quite thick enough, so I pulled out the really pretty velvet gray ribbon that comes in the kit, and I added that to the tag instead. So after I get that ribbon all situated and trim up the edges, I'm going to go ahead and adhere the card front to a card base. And then just my little finishing touch, I'm going to add a few more of the little Nuvo crystal drops. Here's what I have left from the August kit. I still have one sheet of the vellum, 2 pieces of the designer paper, a whole bunch of scraps of vellum and the designer paper, and they're all really big sheets. I still have most of the alphabet stickers. And then here are the 4 sheets of the little punch outs. Lots of pieces left. I still have the 2 stamp sets. Lots of ribbon. The little present die. The little metal charms. More of the sequin mix, the embossing powder, lots of the Nuvo drops left. Still have the stencil, more of the peel-off stickers, the little mirror stickers, and then in the Super Shine bumper pack, I still have lots of sheets. Still have the alphabet stickers, never even used those. So lots of full sheets of paper, 4 sheets of the vellum, and then tons of the punch outs, lots and lots of pieces. Here is a peek again at all 10 cards I made using the Love from Lizi August card kit. It really is a lovely kit and just packed full of fun, crafty goodies. I have plenty left over to make quite a few more cards. The kits sell out quickly, so be sure to purchase yours soon. I have links to the kit and the bumper pack, as well as the Love from Lizi monthly subscription option. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.